Hello and welcome to the Crochet Business School podcast, where you can use your crochet to build a business that will give you the lifestyle you've been dreaming of. Do you plan ahead in your business? So it's all well and good sort of flying by the seat of your pants and making it up as you go along. And when you start out, that can work. But as things get bigger and you sort of find your feet, if you don't plan ahead, you're going to find yourself either stuck or overwhelmed. And neither is a good place to be. Planning ahead means that you know what's coming up. It means that you can get on top of your content creation, on top of your product creation, get on top of your marketing in advance. And planning ahead means that you can create things in advance so that if you're planning on taking time off, or your schedule is unpredictable and you don't necessarily know when you can work, by planning and creating ahead of time, you give yourself some flexibility. And after all, isn't that one of the reasons you want to have your own business? To have that flexibility to work when and as you need? By making a plan and creating content in advance, that's where the flexibility comes from. Your business keeps running, it looks smooth, and your customers know what to expect and when to expect it. And yet you may have taken a complete week off. Planning ahead is what is going to give you that flexibility you need without affecting how your business looks to your customers. So recently, I had to take a week away from my business. My social media didn't do so well that week because that's the one thing that I am terrible at sorting out in advance. My social media has always been my weak spot. But my podcast kept running because I create the content in advance. I usually have my podcast recorded 2 weeks in advance, minimum. And that gives me the flexibility. I write my blogs in advance. They're 2 to 3 weeks in advance, all scheduled in, ready to go. My Pinterest runs in advance. I schedule my pins a month at a time. So I still get found on Google. I still get found on Etsy. My podcast is still there, ready and waiting to be listened to. My blogs are still going out. My pins are being published. It's just my social media that falls down, and that's something I need to work on. But by doing all this ahead, it meant that even though I took a week off, things were still running fairly well. The sales were coming in. Social media fell down, but other than that, it went well. And probably most people didn't notice. Now, I couldn't do that unless I planned all this content in advance. That is, plan it and actually create it. You can write down all the plans in the world, but unless you actually act on them, it's not much use. Now, you can have all the diaries, all the planners, all the notebooks, all the to-do lists lying around. And writing all that stuff out is great. Your plan is there. But unless you stick to the plan and create the content, all that planning, all that writing, all those lists don't mean a thing. So it's not enough just to make the plan. You have to act on it as well. And you don't have to plan it a year in advance or even 6 months in advance. Just planning out things a month in advance can really help you. Having a rough plan at the start of the year so you know what products you want to release and when, can do wonders for keeping you on track and stop you from going off on a tangent. Because it is really easy to get shiny object syndrome and go and dabble in something completely unrelated to the niche that your customers know you for. Planning can keep you on track and serving your customers best. Plans are great. Planning your content and creating it and your products in advance gives you the flexibility in your business. It gives you what you were searching for when you started this. I mean, I know there are many different reasons for creating your own business and wanting that freedom, but flexibility is often part of it so that we can set our own hours, so that we can go on holiday when we choose, so we can spend more time with the kids when we choose, so that we can just take a day off and relax when we need it rather than when our employer allows us to have it. The only way that's going to happen is if you actually create content and products in advance so that you can schedule things in, so that you can make things happen and keep things running smoothly while you take that time that you need. Just because you have your own business does not mean you have to be tethered to it and chained to it 24/7. It doesn't. I mean, what's the point if that's the case? Leaving the 9 to 5 employed by somebody else so you can work 24/7 for yourself is hardly the fair exchange. But having that flexibility, having that freedom to set your own hours comes with the cost that you have to plan in advance. But it's not too difficult. If you know your niche well, if you know your customers well and know what they want, it's not too difficult to come up with the content. And if you are having trouble, that says that you don't know your customers well. And in that case, you need to go back to basics and figure out what your niche is and who is going to buy from you. You need to know that pretty well in order for this to work, but it can and does work. Making that plan so that you can create your content and your products in advance is what is going to give you that flexibility that you've been searching for. And ultimately, it'll serve you in the long run because it means you can take that time off without having to worry about your business being affected. So I hope that's given you some food for thought. And if you want some business resources and tips sent straight to your inbox, then don't forget to subscribe to my newsletter. And why not have a look at browse on my blog and see what subjects are there that can help you. So thank you for joining me, and I shall see you next time for the next episode. Bye for now.